Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Taking the Lead, where I get to share with you some of the most respected leaders in the field of PR. And as we always say, the conversations are mostly not about public relations or communications, but they are about leadership. That's what we do. And today I have the great joy to interview two leaders we've interviewed before. They were among the most downloaded segments, so I'm so excited to have them back. I don't know if they realize that's why we invited them, and they both bring a lot of joy, and I'm so excited to share them with you today. We're going to start with Emily Poe. What you know about her is that she's the Group President, Integrated Comms, Real Chemistry. She's led integrated comms at a number of agencies. She's led work for names you know in the health space like Pfizer, Merck, Bayer, Bristol-Myers Squibb, and Genentech. What you may not know, unless you saw a segment earlier, is that she was an actress as a child, and in college, she published a paper on genetic implications of insect neurobehavior in the journal Nature. So she and I share that in common. So the acting thing, not the neuroscience thing. So Emily, welcome back.
Thanks, Ken. I'm really excited to be here. Glad to know that we were the most downloaded. So
Yes.
This is exciting.
Yeah. Let me tell you about Curtis Sparrer. You know he's the co-founder and principal of Bospar, and you probably know he recently won the most purposeful agency leader from PR Week. The hardware is coming out. What you might not know is that he's a huge sci-fi fan. That means science fiction. I have to remind myself of that. And to the consternation of his husband, he insisted that the Emperor's theme be played when he marched down the aisle on his wedding day. Curtis, welcome back to Taking the Lead. Give us a few bars of the Emperor's March.
Bum, 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 bum. I'm tone deaf. I got booed in karaoke in Japan, so I'm probably the worst person to give any sort of sing along. But yeah, I bleed sci-fi big and small. I mean, like I'm seeing the Foundation series. I'm always recommending to a client some sort of sci-fi angle. And so I think sci-fi is kind of perfect for PR in a way, because what we're doing is we're looking at the future of how technology and health can be improved and made our lives better.
Nice. Now, I will point out that sounded like Here Comes the Groom when you hit those notes. So maybe they're really the same. I don't know. All right.
I mean, getting married was my happiest day of my life. As a gay man from Texas, I never thought it would happen, but I'm glad that, that happened because of, civil rights fighters all throughout the country. I think it informs a part of the DNA of Bospar. We were the first agency to stand up for women's reproductive health, and we really led the fight, even getting 10 agencies to stand up with us to have a recruitment drive. And I think that we inherit the world we deserve. And as PR communicators, we need to be the ones to advocate and fight for a better world. So I'm delighted to be here and to throw a few high balls, some low balls, and some balls in between.
Wow. And I'm sure none of you can tell that Curtis started his career in TV. None of you would know that, right? It's not
There's not an Emmy right here, just
coming through the screen. Okay, we're going to jump right in. Today's segments, it's a little bit of a look back on 2022 and more importantly, 2023. So we will start, despite what I said in my intro, we will start with what we said about, we're going to start about PR. What are three biggest trends going into 2023 that those in this business must be aware? Let's start with Emily.
So the three biggest trends going into 2023 that, from my perspective, I think first, the increasing role of technology, data, and artificial intelligence, right? Because technology allows us to better target customers, segments, provide personalized experiences. That increased access to performance data allows us to really measure the impact of campaigns, particularly across platforms. We're also here at Real Chemistry very focused on artificial intelligence, both for its predictive nature as well as how it may become a tool down the road for us as communicators to allow us to do higher level work. I think second, the continuing shift towards and of social platforms, right? We are very focused on influencer and advocate marketing. That continues to be important, especially in the healthcare space where we're really trying to push that forward. And then we have to be paying attention to what's happening on platforms like Twitter, and how are we as communicators in front of those changes. And then I think third, can the impact of the financial market dynamics, right? So what I would say is financial pressure is out there, but what it means is that we need to be very focused on high impact communication. So what are the critical things that still need to be communicated? What do audiences need to learn no matter what's happening with the market environment? Communication still needs to happen.
Great. Curtis, before we go into yours, any thoughts about what Emily said?
I think that what Emily said about Twitter is spot on. And if I was to say what 2023 is going to be like, it's going to be the de-Twitterification of PR. Twitter was really a big hot button thing. And I think it was almost an accepted practice that you would start any kind of campaign on Twitter. And now people are like, well, maybe Mastodon, maybe LinkedIn. And, I got to hand it to Elon Musk. He really gave Mark Zuckerberg an assist. Everyone was out with the torches for Mark Zuckerberg. Meta's silly. What's Meta really doing? But, Elon did the hold my beer moment. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, Elon Musk, stop doing it. I was actually at Media Predicts. I brought a prop. And during Media Predict, we talked about what crazy sort of predictions do we have. Mm-hmm. And Scott Buttman at NBC said he predicted that Elon Musk would give the helm to a certain woman who led Facebook very well until just recently. So Sheryl Sandberg as the head of Twitter, maybe that's going to be the thing that happens. But I think that what we're going to be seeing is also a lot of consolidation. We saw Protocol shutter. I think we're going to see other media outlets shutter. And I think that's going to, for a PR point of view, make content a lot more important. We've already been seeing a lot of clients ask us about various content opportunities and shops. We at Bospar, for example, have our own podcast, Politely Pushy. That's not a plug. Yes, it is. And the thing about Politely Pushy is we see a lot of executives just wanting to be on that to communicate their message to a CNBC reporter and talk about that in a relatively safe space without any, we got to let you go. We just saw that something happened on Twitter. Bye. And so we're seeing a lot more of that. And I would say the other thing that we're seeing is kind of a coming together, great convergence of B2B and B2C tactics when it comes to PR. I think that it's gotten so blurry between both of those. We just got a client that's a total B2B player in the messaging space, but being on the Today Show was transformative for them. And their sales team says a placement like today was like leaps and bounds better than just a simple placement in an industry publication. And I think we're going to see a lot more companies, as they are looking for ways to differentiate themselves during an economic downturn, look for big picture moments like that. And I haven't had my first cup of coffee yet.
Wow. I'm just going to say, since we're not plugging, Politely Pushy podcast has had some wonderful guests. It's had some wonderful.
Yeah, there was this great guy named Ken who just really gave it all. It was one of our most downloaded segments.
Look at that. That is just so great to hear. Okay, let's keep it going. We're going to switch a little from PR back into my favorite topic, which is leadership. What were the 3 biggest occurrences in 2022 from which leaders can learn? Let's go to Curtis first and then Emily.
Number 1, if Elon Musk does it, don't do it. I think Elon Musk has been a profile in believing your own PR, frankly. And I think that's the most dangerous thing in leadership, is believing your own reality bubble. And so you got to get out of that sort of field. That's why, parents and friends who've known you since you were 5 are great, because they will really tell you who you are and when you're full of it. And I just think that more people need that. I would say that, if I was just to lean into personalities as an example of like PR and leadership and what to do and what not to do, I would say that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are kind of next on my list. And much like Elon Musk, I think Donald Trump has kind of just been giving us the same sort of story and how not to inspire people. And whether or not he felt like the election was stolen, just he needed to change the message, and he needed to get his base more excited about something else. Whereas I think Joe Biden has been extraordinarily effective. And I think he's an example for all leaders about how to very stately and carefully go after a program to, really be thought of as undervalued, frankly, but to really deliver in the end. And, to do it with a lot of grace and humility that I would think a lot of leaders in America and worldwide could use. So I would say that's kind of my prescription right now for 2023 is be more like Joe Biden and less like those other two guys whose name I really just don't want to even think about anymore.
Emily, 3 biggest occurrences or themes from 2022 from which leaders can learn. What's your take on that?
Well, I have 3, but I do want to say to Curtis's point, as much as my votes for Joe Biden, I do think that there is something very compelling about how Trump and Elon Musk just do whatever they want. And as communicators, like they get so much coverage. And so when I think about what are big occurrences that I want us to be thinking about as communicators, like I want to think about Patagonia's move to sustainable capitalism, right? Like that's like kind of the opposite of the Trump Musk, like just, splashiness, right? Because I think that Patagonia did something that is authentic and balanced profit with purpose, which I know for Bospar in particular is very much a focus and certainly something that we're very passionate about at Real Chemistry too. Like that way, that shift is what I'd like to see more of our companies do and where I want us to be counseling clients, because it is a really tough news, social, communications environment when you have communicators like Trump and Musk dominating a lot of conversation. But with that, I would say like the next thing is probably embracing change. In our space in healthcare, COVID was obviously a catalyst for many things, but specifically for the growth of digital health, the importance of technology, again, the use of AI in healthcare. The entire healthcare model is changing, and how we approach clinical trials, how, having wearable technology to monitor results, all of that, like we as communicators have to embrace change and not do communications the way we've always done it. And then through all that change would probably be my 3rd point, which is remaining resilient. Between COVID, great resignation, uncertain economy, uncertain budgets, we need to be flexible and we need to be able to pivot quickly depending on what's out there. We need to be paying attention to what's in front of us, embrace that change, and use that uncertainty to sort of reimagine a future of work, of communications, of leadership. And that's where I think as leaders we can take from what's been happening in the world.
Yeah, in hearing both of you, what's really coming to the top for me, for leaders, is that it's a long game. It's not about immediacy always, except that some things take time. It's about resiliency. It's about getting things done, focusing on results. And I think it's about being authentic to your own style, your own brand, which I do think we've seen in Uncle Joe from Delaware. And we've seen, with the CEO of Patagonia, everything he has done and other leaders felt absolutely authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important. So we're going to flip the order a little bit because you started to talk about uncertainty. I believe we're living in days of uncertainty. I think they're going to continue. I think just what's uncertain changes, but what's certain is that uncertainty continues. Emily, continuing the thought, what's your best counsel to leaders? How do they lead their teams, their organizations, their clients, and themselves through it? The 3 most important points.
first be a good listener, right? So as leaders, we're often about action and direction. I think most importantly, we need to actually balance that with finding the time to shut up, listen to our employees, listen to our clients, our peers. We can learn so much that way. And, I think that would be my number one be all end all. Look around you, listen to stakeholders, and be willing to learn from them.
Great. Curtis, leading
I
through
love
uncertainty.
I love what Emily had to say. I think listening is important, and as a self-professed ham, it's the hardest thing to do. But I think that I'm quite serious about, don't drink your own Kool-Aid. And so I think listening is the most important antidote for that. I would say that when it comes to what I think is going to matter, I think it's going to be agility. I think that people tend to have this idea that they're going to stay the course. And I think that's kind of a recipe for disaster. I think agility is going to be important. Being super nimble and being able to watch things and react quickly is really going to save the day, because I find that the kind of unease and uncertainty of the economy is having people do things well in advance of when they possibly should do them. And so I think the kind of thinking of such long range planning is actually deleterious. And so I would recommend, being super, super agile during this time. I think that when we're looking at a time like this, it's so easy to kind of lose your head and get in like a panic cycle. But to, those people, I would say, hey, remember what Lily Tomlin told us. Don't panic. So did Douglas Adams. So I think that, and bring a towel. Those are the two things that Douglas Adams really focused on. So I think those are the things that we need to be doing as communicators during this time, is to really have, yes, a long view, but to also make sure that we are reacting appropriately and using our gunpowder in a very calibrated way.
It's interesting. We're doing a lot of webinars and training about leading through uncertainty. And, a lot of the leaders in those courses say, well, what if I don't know? I said, that's perfectly fine. You just say, I don't know for sure, but very quickly, but here's the path I see forward. I need you in the rowboat with me, rowing in the same direction. I believe that'll get us there. And if along the way things change, we're smart, we're strategic, we're flexible. We'll change the course and we'll get to port. I don't know where these maritime visuals are coming from, but
maybe
we'll
I'll go with spaceship soon.
There you go. Oh, that's the kind of ship I mean. But we will get there if you're with me. So I think when your followers ask you, what's the answer, and you don't know, it can actually be a great opportunity to build followership, courage, and inspiring people, actually. Okay.
One thing I'd like to add just quickly,
Please.
I do think leaders really need to steel themselves to some game theory. I find that a lot of times they are going kind of at zero-sum games, and I think that's problematic. And I think that is really why I'm touching on the agility thing, is that these leaders need to be thinking very thoughtfully about certain things that are going to play out sequentially. And as a result, agility is important, but I think also that means harsh dictates of, well, let's cut this entire department, or let's never do that. I think that's when these companies really get into trouble and kind of get into a vortex of witness protection programhood, because they just stop making any right decision, they make rash ones, and then they just go poof.
Good point. Let's ask Curtis another question. And, we're always very honest in these segments. So I'm going to ask you, what was your toughest challenge in 2022, and how do you power through it?
I thought you were going to ask me if I had started using fillers yet.
That's from Taking the Lead, the outtakes or something like that, which you just gave me a great idea, by the way.
So I would say that the biggest challenge, of course, has been this will it or won't it economy. And I think that has been the thing where we have to provide guidance about what we're seeing and what we would recommend doing. And when I was having a similar discussion with heads of communication with HP and CVS Health, we were talking about what we were doing right now and what we're going to do by the end of the year and how we were going to tee up Q1. And I think that just having those conversations with other people at a similar level is so useful to be like, I'm not crazy, am I? Just kind of getting that kind of feedback about, what sort of leadership things you're going to be doing. Having a peer group has been important in every part of our life, whether it's been, grade school or college. And that definitely includes anytime you're in a leadership role, having those people to double check you.
Excellent point. Emily, how about you? What was a big challenge in 2022? Maybe your biggest challenge, and how'd you manage?
Yeah. So our biggest challenge at Real Chemistry has been balancing growth with staffing, right? Between recruiting, retention, overall team management. That's definitely been the biggest challenge we faced this year. For those who know the history of Real Chemistry, we were founded in 2001 as at the time Weisscom Group. We've gone through many various name changes and evolutions and growth. So we're now 2,000 plus employees, and what we had to do this year is actually take a step back, sort of in the middle of the year, to think through all the levers that we could help adjust with keeping up with growth and continuing to grow and build and develop our team. So we started some pilot cohort hiring. That's given us some valuable learnings. We provided some market adjustments to some levels of staff that we saw were under market. I mean, we've been doing a lot of analysis of compensation, and we've been finding ways to continue to balance sort of that hybrid work environment so that we can get the best of being together physically while also having that flexibility that working virtually can allow, and that we know our employees are really valuing. So that's for sure been the biggest challenge that we faced this year.
Breaking prediction. My prediction is that because of the economy, we'll continue to seesaw with, on-site versus virtual.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, there's been like a huge shift, say, with a lot of people saying, let's do hybrid, let's come back to work. I was inspired by what Emily had to say right there. And I think that we might see more people saying, nah, stay at home, just because there might be economic benefits to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Curtis, I know you're rarely excited. We've all sensed that, but what are you most excited about for 2023?
One of the things that I was talking about with journalists yesterday was what they expected to see with this kind of Harry Potter sorting hat on the economy. And one of the things that a lot of these journalists mentioned was the idea that whenever you have a bit of a downturn, people who are these really big companies kind of get scattered to the wind like seeds, and they sprout. And so I'm excited to see what new companies come about, this kind of economic seesaw. And I'm also excited to see the next generation of work, because I think COVID, awful as it were, and you have to say that each time, did really give us a first real time as a nation to experiment with what work is like, what work could mean, and how work and not work really interact together. And I think that my biggest concern with 2022 was with vaccines, and I've had 4 shots, was that, maybe we just forget, have amnesia, and just go back to status quo. And I'm delighted to see, no, we're not done yet. We're still going to tinker with that, because as a sci-fi fan, a futurist, I like doing things that are different and interesting and new for the first time. And that's what I'm really excited about, the fact that the experiment continues.
Emily, take it home. What are you most excited about for 2023?
It's not so dissimilar, actually, from what Curtis was saying. In the health space, there's an event that kicks off our year every year and really sets the tone. It's the JPM Annual Healthcare Investment Banking Conference. It's held every year in early January in San Francisco. So Curtis will be out in your neck of the woods. But it features sort of the leading innovators and latest innovations from around the world to, and address today's health and wellness challenges. So this year, the 2023 meeting will be the 41st annual event. I've been to many of them, but not all 41. But it will be pretty much fully in person again, right? So I think for me, it leads to excitement because we are kind of discovering what this new post-COVID reality will be and what is the way we're going to be working in the future. Also, we're going to get to see what is exciting and great coming out of companies. This is where the healthcare industry really says, this is what to expect this year. So for me, that's a great way to understand what we can be excited about and where we see health going.
Great, great. Well, we've got to wrap it up. I want to thank both of our guests. I knew we'd get great content. I knew they'd have valuable insights. I underestimated how much fun it was going to be, so shame on me for that. And thank you both for bringing that. I'm going to recommend to all our viewers, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Please link in with all three of us. Hope it's okay to say that, guys.
Mm-hmm.
If
Oh,
you link in
absolutely.
to Curtis and Emily, tell them, hey, I saw you on Taking the Lead on the podcast. If you have questions about leadership, if you'd like to discuss training or executive coaching, or you're not sure what they can bring you, please reach out to me, ken@jacobscomm.com. We'll have that dialogue. And we always like to wrap up by saying, till next time, keep on taking the lead. Thank you.